Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want to talk about something that I think would have been really useful for myself when I just started, and I think would be useful for anyone who is also a beginner and looking to maybe hit their first winning product. I've been getting a lot of questions in my DMs recently and also in my server. I get around like 50 messages a day, probably a little bit more. So I apologize if I somehow missed your message or your question. One question I get a lot in particular, and one question that I always struggle to answer, is if you were to go back in time, what is one piece of advice you would give to yourself? Or like, what is the most important advice you think for beginners to hear? And I had multiple answers to this, and I think I have answered this question like six or seven times. But it's always a different answer. It's always something different, because depending on my mood in the day, or depending on just what I'm thinking that day, like I have a different response, because that question is very vague, it's very open, and it's quite ambiguous, and there's a lot of advice that I can give, but it's really hard to pinpoint one most important advice. And I have been thinking about this for like the past week or the past 2 weeks. Like, what would be the most important thing what's the most important thing that separates someone who hasn't had a very successful store or product yet versus someone who has, or has multiple? And I think there really comes down to one big reason, and that one big reason is, okay, I can't really put it into like a one name, but the idea is, I think what really holds beginners back is believing too much in what they're doing is right. And okay, that does sound a bit confusing. Let me explain. So I think the biggest trap that a lot of, like most beginners I see, like 99% of people that have either I've talked to or have reached out to me are falling into the trap of believing too much in a particular person or a particular way of doing things. So for example, you've been watching a lot of videos from Guru A, and they're preaching a way of doing things, and they're making it feel like it's the best way, since they have a mentorship and that's the way they sell. So they have to make it seem very attractive to you in order to get you to buy into their mentorship, since they are portraying themselves as the master of that method. So the worst thing that can happen is for you to believe that is the best way just because that person has said so. And okay, it could be the easy way or the best way, but it's definitely not the only way. And I feel like when you believe too much in a person or a way of doing things, you start to lose your own sense of judgment. And I feel like it becomes really difficult to see things clearly, to actually evaluate and learn from your own experiences, because when you follow something too blindly, when you follow something too strongly, you tend to do things not because you want to do that, but because you think that's the right way of doing things. So for example, right? I'm sorry, I just saw someone I know, and I just lost my train of thought. So for example, if you've been told to believe that, okay, like I'm just using this as an example, right? If you're told to believe that native images into advertorials, that funnel is the best way of doing things, even if you have an almost a subconscious idea that, okay, maybe this isn't the best way, right? Maybe you've tried it for a long time and you haven't seen any success, but you've been to put it a little bit more extremely, but you've been brainwashed into thinking that it's the right way of doing things. And even you can say, okay, we failed and we learned a lot through this, but at a certain point, it's like you're doing it because you believe is the right way, not because you wanted to do it. Not not because you think, like you genuinely think is the right way, but you just believe that because you've seen all these people hitting big numbers on the screen, they've hit 50k 70k days, that you've been led to believe that that is the way you should do it, not because you genuinely believe is the way you should be doing it. and and just a little side note is that right now I'm doing what, 20k 30k days, and it really is, I really am no different from when I'm doing $200 $300 days. So you really shouldn't be putting anyone like a guru or someone who's doing, just because they're doing big numbers, you're putting them on a pedestal and you're believing in whatever they're saying to be the sole truth. And just recently, a friend of mine, he showed me a store of a pretty big, he showed me a store of a guy in the e-com space who has one of the biggest e-com communities. And it's not who you're immediately thinking of. I promise you, it's not him, it's someone else. And he showed me his store, and that guy does what, 50k days, maybe more, from what I have seen. And he showed me his store, and we verified it with the address, everything, like we know it's him. And his store, it's calling it complete dog shit is giving it the benefit of the doubt. Like, it's worse than that. And he's doing black hat. His store looks absolute, like, it's the worst I've ever seen in my life. And he's able to do what, 50k days from that, and I've seen his ads. It's not very good. So they obviously, what, they might have known something that we don't. Maybe they got lucky from that. Maybe it just worked, and because it worked initially, then the pixel optimized and it got better and better. But they don't know any better, right? And this is just another example that solidified my point of, whenever you see someone who's doing what, 30k days, like 50k days, or maybe even 100k days, right? They could just be doing black hat, and their stores are nothing better than yours. Their ads are nothing better than yours. So it comes to a point, it really comes to a point where once you know the foundations and you have like some knowledge, then you're essentially waiting for your time, right? You're slowly building up your skills, and once you do have that basic knowledge and foundation, and you're slowly improving over time, it really does just, you're just waiting for your time. You're just waiting for your lucky moment and the timing to be right for you to hit your winning product. And okay, back to the main point. So don't blindly follow Drew's advice too strongly. Always like try to keep an open mind, and definitely try to explore things on your own as well, right? And I guess I'm a pretty good example of that working. Like I when I did calorie rips, pure calorie rips, it never really worked. And it's only when I stumbled by this new, like, different method by accident, because I was quite fortunate to have never really been that stuck in the guru mindset. Like, I was back in April when I watched a lot of Mark Bill's Brand and Anthony Camacho into thinking that I have to do advertorials. Like, if I just do a VSL, if I just do a ad into a product page, a retard. Like, I get called a retard for doing that, because you're wasting your click, you're wasting the landing page visits, since you're showing them the price straight away without building up the hype and the desire for your product. And yeah, like, I was literally getting called by Mark Bill's Brand a retard in the videos. Oh, if you're doing a ad into a PDP, and you're fucking retard. And I did think I was a retard for doing that at the time, because obviously I saw the big numbers, and I was led to believe that I was a retard for doing ad to PDP. But then I was lucky enough to have been pulled out, like, by my business partner at the time, into going to ecom, and really that's where my mind sort of cleared up. And I was tapping into different things. I was actually thinking on my own, and not just doing things because a guy who's doing big numbers is doing that. So I really don't like when people ask me questions like, oh, how do you set up your ad account, and do you do CBO, ABOs? Do you do this? Like, what's your way of doing this? Right? I can tell you what I do, but I'm scared that you're gonna do it just because I do it, and I don't want that, because just by doing what I do is not gonna give the same result. You really have to think clearly, and you really have to make your own decisions, your own like intrinsic decisions based on what you know, not what someone is telling you. Because if you just do what you're led to believe is right, then I feel like you're actually never learning that much. Although you're failing over and over again, you're not actually doing things that after critically analyzing like the things you know and the things you know works, you make a true decision by yourself. I feel like that's how you actually learn over time. Oh, it's the thunder is so loud. I just cut off my train of thought again. Yeah, so I do think it's very, very important to be clear, and my advice would be to wake up, right? To wake up from the brain fog, to wake up from the guru fog that's they're trying to feed you with, to trying to make you believe that they know it all, to make you think that their way is king. You really have to. I really don't know like an actionable step, like a good actionable step to get out of this, because I see a lot of people, like a lot of people who are just, even an example would be using Shrine and using Shrine theme and using like buying a ad account or a business manager. I have never understood the Shrine theme and buying ad manager meta, when you can just use a basic theme on Shopify that arguably is even better than Shrine now that with the recent Shopify updates and the new themes. And also you can just make your own ad manager verified by your own business, which is much more secure than buying someone else's. So it really just never made sense. And when I ask people, they like, the answer I get isn't like that well-rounded as well. It's always just, oh, because so-and-so said so, like so-and-so are doing big numbers, so they must be right. And I really think that's a terrible mindset. Like, just because someone is doing big numbers, they're right, because you don't know what they're really doing behind the hood to be making those numbers. And you really don't know whether they know as well. Like, no one, like, to be honest, like, no, even if someone who's super experienced, they don't know 100% what is correct. So for us, we have so much resource out there on YouTube, on X, to take in, to consume. It's really, really important to keep a very open mind and to look at different ways of doing things, and to just, once you've gained the initial knowledge, kind of the initial foundations, it's really important to go out there, maybe try their way sometimes, like a bit, but form your own conclusions and try new things, because that's really what makes you different. And maybe you'll stumble across a method that hits off for you, since different people just naturally have different ways of doing things. Maybe you have different ways of structuring a static. Even if you're copying a template, we might have like subconscious ways of like placing things at different places, using different fonts. We are just different in so many different ways. So a method that works for someone else, and even if you copy it one by one, you subconsciously will make changes to it in different places. So it's very important to really find out what works for you, and you can only do that by actually testing different things that you truly believe is the right way of doing things, not the way that you've been fed. Yeah. And I really don't want to name anyone, because I feel like the e-com space is quite scary as well. Don't want to get on people's bad side, so I'll try to keep it neutral. I try to keep it neutral and try to keep it positive. Try not to make any more negative topics like dropshipping is a scam. Try to keep everything quite positive. And if it's a negative thing, it will only be a negative thing about me, about like maybe I lost 6K in a day, or I'm feeling terribly today, not about the ecom community or any specific names in the ecom space. But yeah, that's all for this video. It's